Got another solo-sode here for you. Pretty excited about this one. We got some good stuff to talk about. And I think I'm starting to really nail down this solo-sode format. So that's good going forward, I guess. But one of the first things I want to start talking about is yesterday did the Fifth Line 5K for the Columbus Blue Jackets. It is the 10th year of them hosting said 5K. And I have been looking forward to this race because it also meant that I am 3 weeks out from the pump and run, which if you've been following the show, you know I've been training for. And this race needed to go reasonably well to, one, demonstrate to me that my training program has been paying off outside of the practices, which have been consistently getting better. So I knew that was there for me. But, you know, I only have 3 weeks to continue to dial in, and that's not that much time, especially if, it's just not that much time. So anyways, I'm happy to report that the 5K went well. I ended up finishing, after they verified all the results, I finished 7th overall, 4th in my age group, which I don't know what my age group is. I'm 29. I think it switches at 30. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it looks like there's 4 other dudes in their 20s, so that would make sense. And my time was a 17:07, which is the second fastest 5K I have ever run in my life. My PR being a 16:52, which was my senior year of high school. So yeah, it went very well. There were, how many people in this thing? I think like 3,000 something. I think it was 5,000. 5,000 people registered. Be it like runners, joggers, all that, walkers, that sort of thing. So yeah, it went super well. And the winner, though, funnily enough, I didn't know this until today. A gentleman by the name of Andrew Giljohn was actually a senior when I was a freshman running cross country at UA. And so I didn't see him there. I did see him, I guess. I just didn't even realize. But yeah, that was really cool. He ended with a 15:47, which is a 5:05 average mile. Again, my time was 17:07. That was a 5:30 mile. And so he finished like a minute and 20 seconds ahead of me. So there was about that time between first and 7th place. So yeah, overall, though, I was super happy with that. The course honestly felt somewhat short, but I don't run 5Ks that often. I haven't done one since December, and my December 5K was like a 19:12, so I did better by over 2 minutes. Now, part of that was when I had done the 5K in December. I hadn't done one in a long time, and I also hadn't done any specific training for it. And so when you haven't done something in a while, you might actually have the physical ability to do it, but the mental aspect of running a race like that can be tough. And also just, you are not used to that feeling anymore. And so you actually can get used to that feeling of being uncomfortable, of sort of having your lungs gasp for air, your thighs be tired, that sort of things. Part of getting faster is just getting used to that feeling and being able to endure more of it. That, combined with structured workouts, will undoubtedly help improve your time. And that's sort of what I've been doing. And the structured workouts also help you get used to it, because you just are putting yourself in that uncomfortable scenario, and it's been paying off. And so we got 3 more weeks to dial in. I'll do a little bit more speed work. I've been doing mile repeats, and so 3 miles with a little bit of rest in between. And I've been doing 8 600 meter runs at faster than race pace. And so I'll probably this week, switch from 8 600s to 6 800s. so we get a little bit better at maintaining that faster than race pace speed. And then we'll continue to try and improve my mile times for each of the 3 miles that I do. And then also while reducing the rest in between. That will be probably the last 2 weeks. So that's where we're at there. That's the old pump and run update. Oh, and I also hit 30 reps of 160, which is I'm actually at 159 right now. So I hit 30 reps of 160 this Saturday. And that's also huge because I was able to hit 155 for 30 reps a couple weekends in a row. And I got 28 reps and then like 24, 25 reps of 160 on 2 separate weekends. And then I think I got 29 last weekend and then 30 this weekend. So it's tight. I mean, we'll still keep training on that, keep dialing that in, but yeah, so we're looking solid 3 weeks out. And that doesn't mean that I felt really good during the race, like really good. I didn't have to there was no real mental battle. Like I just felt pretty good. And so I was expecting to feel terrible and have to there's some mantras that I have for myself. I didn't have to get those out. And so I'm not expecting to feel that way. I'm not expecting to feel good on the pump and run because I feel like if you go in expecting to feel good, you're not prepping yourself for success, because if you're really pushing yourself, it's not going to feel good at the end of the day. It'll feel good when you finish, but I felt pretty good overall during this race. And so not expecting that again, the pump and run, but that's a positive marker for where we're at. And so that's the main update there. Very excited about that. Last night was also the Super Bowl, and if you watched or listened to the last one, you heard my sister and I talking about how we're neither Chiefs nor Eagles fans, but we are definitely not Chiefs fans. So I was rooting for the Eagles, and so that ended up being super positive. It ended up being a way more of a blowout than I think anyone was expecting, and I actually watched the whole thing because I've been batching it up this weekend with my wife and kiddo in South Carolina. I've been having some one-on-one Jake time, and that's been good. So that being said, obviously I miss my wife and kid, but it's been good to have some of that alone time. And so I stayed up, watched the whole game. I know, crazy. And yeah, it was solid. The halftime show with Kendrick, that was interesting. I watched most of the game with my mom, then I came home and watched the rest here, but I caught the halftime show with her. And I really wasn't sure what to expect from the Kendrick halftime show, especially since he had made he did All Right. We gonna be all right. He did that song when it was Snoop and M and Dre and 50 Cent, and they all did the halftime show, 3 or 4 years ago. Kendrick was on there for a bit. And so I wasn't sure what the song choice was going to be and that sort of thing. And it ended up, and then you also had Samuel L. Jackson sort of cameo as Uncle Sam, which is cool. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson is always a welcome surprise. But I think what surprised me about the halftime show was it was kind of going for a story. That's what it seemed like. You had the different shapes where it was the buttons of the PlayStation 5, and I've only watched it the one time, so I'm not giving some sort of crazy analysis, but you had the 4 PlayStation 5 sort of stations, and he went through each one of them, and there was a different sort of dance in there, and he had a different song in each one. And then Samuel Jackson was kind of narrating these transitions, and they were hinting at the Not Like Us song the whole time and kind of ramping up for that, which is just wild that was the sort of main event. Again, because I was curious about the song choices. Kendrick has a lot of bangers, but Kendrick also has a lot of songs that are not bangers, but are slightly more on the artistic side. Like they're a lot more Kendrick's always lyrical, but they're a lot more lyrical and kind of storytelling, and the beat isn't necessarily something that slaps per se, but still is unique and kind of almost slightly more introspective. And so the show kind of tilted and leaned more into that artistic side than let's just play all of the greatest hits sort of side, which is typically what the Super Bowl goes for. And so I found myself like switching gears. I was ready for like banger after banger after banger, but I was like switching gears as the show was going on. Like, wait, hold on, what are they doing here? And that's what my mom ended up talking about throughout the halftime show. We're like, oh, okay, like this is like a story sort of that they're going for, and it kind of culminating with Not Like Us, which was crazy to have Kendrick and then the entire stadium shout A minor, because that song, if anyone kept up with last year's Drake Kendrick beef, that song just kind of spanks Drake around and kind of calls him a pedophile on the low for flirting with underage girls. And so that was wild to have in a Super Bowl halftime show. It was just a diss song for a specific person kind of be the main event. So overall, that was pretty cool, I guess. But yeah, very, very unique halftime show. I enjoyed it. It's just I had to kind of switch my gears from greatest hits bangers to, oh, okay, we're kind of going for something a little atypical. And I thought it was good. So overall, pretty solid there. Also with the Super Bowl, I told my mom beforehand what I was looking for was just some funny commercials. And there were a handful. There was a couple Doritos ones that made me laugh out loud. But there was the one with a bunch of sloths. I can't remember what it was for, but that one just had me dying laughing because it had the sloths in sort of everyday situations. That one got me. You should definitely go watch it if you haven't seen it. But obviously the main thing I'm looking for when I'm watching the Super Bowl, and this is true every year, is I'm looking for the Super Bowl TV spots for the movies that are coming out. And the two main ones worth noting were for the new Mission Impossible Final Reckoning movie and for the Thunderbolts movie, which is Marvel's next movie that comes out after Captain America Brave New World. With regards to Mission Impossible, I'm a pretty solid Mission Impossible fan. I watched the first one, just titled Mission Impossible, when I was like in elementary school or middle school, and it was okay. Wasn't really super into it. And I had seen bits and pieces of the second and the third one. But then I watched the fourth one, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, my freshman year of college. And it was so good. Good blend of action and humor and high stakes and cool spy stuff that hit really good. And then my personal favorite one, Rogue Nation, when that came out, it had some really good trailers. And overall, I think is my favorite Mission Impossible. The character, was her name? Ela? I think it's Ela. Ela Faust. That character is really awesome. She's played by, I'm blanking on the actress's name. What is her name? Faust is played by Rebecca Ferguson, and she was what's his face's mom, Timothée Chalamet's mom in the Dune movies that are coming out. I like her a lot as Ela Faust. Anyway, so her introduction is in that movie. And then you've got Mission Impossible Fallout, the sequel with Henry Cavill, which was the first Mission Impossible movie I saw in theaters. And at first I was kind of so-so in that one, but when I rewatched all of them, and I'll get to that, I really enjoyed it. And one of the best scenes in all the Mission Impossibles in that movie. And then the most recent one, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Part 1. That one I fell asleep during and watching it with my in-laws. And it's not because it was a bad movie, but it was just because I was wiped out. And so I need to watch that one again because this this upcoming one, Final Reckoning, is the direct sequel. And so when Top Gun Maverick came out, also starring Tom Cruise, my wife and I watched the first Top Gun, which I had never seen and is awesome. I now am a huge fan, which I had never seen. Then we went and saw Top Gun Maverick, which is also awesome. So good. Don't think, just do. And after we did that, Tay and I were on like a Tom Cruise kick, unlike any other. And we watched all the Mission Impossible movies, and 3 through the most recent are all really solid. 1 is kind of like the one that started it all, but I am just not a huge fan. I don't think it just doesn't grab me. And then 2 is super over the top and a lot of fun, but it's incredibly cheesy and it's kind of, you either like that sort of thing or you don't. It's very entertaining in my perspective. But anyways, Tom Cruise, known for doing all these crazy stunts, and the Super Bowl game spot for the new Mission Impossible, he's just straight up holding onto a plane as it's flying around, doing barrel rolls and such. And one of the cool things about Mission Impossible and Tom Cruise doing his own stunts is when you see the stunts being done on screen, obviously it looks real, but it looks so real. And I feel like because we, and definitely me, are so accustomed to big blockbuster movies having a bunch of CGI and having, the plane be fake and have it be like a green screen rig when they're filming it and the actor just hanging off, that it looks so real that it almost, the real life stuff looks so real that I almost have to watch it again, because I'm just used to being bombarded with special effects, but it's almost not muted when the stunts are done real, because it looks amazing, but it's just so crisp and clear. I don't know. It's just so crisp and clear that it's hard to even imagine that someone would actually be doing those things. And so, yeah, the mission, anything that Tom Cruise does just looks so good because he's actually doing it. And we're so accustomed to CGI bullshit that it kind of throws you off for a second. Like, well, what am I looking at? Oh, that's real life. That's right. And so yeah, I'll definitely have to watch the most recent Mission Impossible again, but I'd like to see this new one in theaters. And yeah, Tay will definitely probably want to go see that. On the other side of things, the Thunderbolts spot, I wasn't sure if they were going to do a Thunderbolts one or a Fantastic Four one. I was really surprised we didn't see a Superman one, unless it was before the game and I missed it. But I've been on YouTube and I haven't seen one, so I was very surprised they didn't have a Superman one. But yeah, so the Thunderbolts comes out in May, so I was really glad that they had a spot for that. And then they released the trailer. Spot's 30 seconds. They released a full trailer. It's like 2 minutes, 20 seconds. And I really liked the first trailer for the Thunderbolts. And the second trailer, I also really enjoyed. And I think what's cool about this one, it's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy in that the characters in the movie aren't A-list. They're not B-list. They're like MNOP list characters outside of Bucky, who ordinarily would be like a C-list character, but because of the MCU and because he's been in the franchise since 2011, Captain America: The First Avenger. He was in all the Cap movies, Infinity War, Endgame, and then he was also in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So he's like a mainstay character. Everyone knows who Bucky Barnes is. Everyone knows who the Winter Soldier is. He's like a pop culture character now. And so he's kind of the main front runner. And then Yelena Bolova, is that her name? The Florence Pugh's character. She was in Black Widow and Hawkeye, and her character is one of the more popular characters of the newer ones post Endgame. The character Red Guardian is Yelena's adoptive spy father, played by David Harbour. Is that his name? What's his name? David H. Harbour. Yeah, David Harbour. And, from Stranger Things and all that. and he's kind of like a funny Russian discount Captain America. And you've got the Ghost character, who was the villain of Ant-Man and the Wasp, not Quantumania, but the second Ant-Man movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp. And then you've got the Taskmaster character, who was one of the bad guys in Black Widow, the Black Widow movie, which was kind of disappointing because Taskmaster is a pretty cool villain in the comics, and they kind of just made the character lame and did a gender swap and didn't give the gender swapped character much of a character. And then you've got John Walker, who is the underrated character from the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, making an appearance. And I'm a big fan of that character, not because he's necessarily a good guy, but because they make him out to be a pretty solid. He's not even a douchebag, but they make you hate him because he and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, spoilers, but I mean, if you haven't seen it, come on. He becomes the new Captain America in that show. He was chosen by the US government to sort of take up the mantle, and he didn't have any superpowers. He was just genetically superior, and his biometrics were sort of off the chart for just a naturally born human. And he was a 3-time Medal of Honor recipient, that sort of thing. And they make him Captain America, and he sort of cracks under the pressure and then loses it when his best friend dies in battle against these other super soldiers, of which he was not. I guess he was at the time, but he takes the serum, long story short, becomes enhanced, and then kills this other super soldier on the world stage for everyone to see. And then he gets an other than honorable discharge for killing a super soldier, which is not, I mean, he wasn't necessarily in the wrong, but he did it in front of the general public, and it basically just looked like he bashed a dude's chest in with the shield, and the shield was all bloody. He gets other than honorably discharged, and then helps Sam Wilson and Bucky bring in the rest of the super soldiers, and so it'll be cool to. And then he gets in the comics, John Walker is known as the character as U.S. Agent. He gets that name at the end of the movie, and by Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, Val, and I think she's going to be the director of the CIA in the new movie, and she's sort of the Nick Fury of the CIA, and is probably pulling the strings to get this team together. Anyways, all that backstory behind all those characters, just to say these are very minor list characters, and similar to how no one knew Guardians of the Galaxy, who those characters were before Guardians of the Galaxy came out. And that kind of makes me excited because there's no expectation for these characters, like Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ghost is not a major character in the comics, and Ghost has not been a major character in the MCU outside of that one movie. And they kind of just have some freedom now to make a good movie about characters that no one has any expectations for. And so that kind of, in my eyes, allows them to have some greater freedom with regards to just plot and decision making and where they want these characters to go. And so I think the trailer is really solid. I think the budget's clocking in at 150 million, which is pretty cheap for a Marvel movie. Obviously, that's still just a boatload of money, but compared to, something like Captain America: Brave New World, which is reshot a bunch of times and is on its way to being a $400 million movie before it comes out. I mean, they're probably done now. I mean, it's already premiered, so it is done. But anyways, yeah, all that to be said, I'm excited for the Thunderbolts. I think it's a cool concept, a government sponsored team. Oh yeah, and another reason I'm excited is because, and the trailer addresses it directly, is the Avengers haven't really been a thing, which has been one of my main gripes about the MCU post Endgame. Is all these characters have been having movies and all the characters are still out there, but there's been no through line from a story perspective of what are Earth's mightiest heroes up to? Why are they not a team? Why have they not kept the team going? In certain ways, it seems like some of the folks are still, chatting behind the scenes, but they're not doing it in their movies so much. Or if they are, it's just like a couple characters here, a couple characters there. And So I like that this movie is at least addressing the absence of the Avengers and being like, hey, they're not coming. We need sort of a new threat. I mean, this is Marvel's Suicide Squad. I don't know if Suicide Squad or Thunderbolts came out first in Marvel or DC, but because Suicide Squad has had 2 movies and the Thunderbolts is only having its first, it's basically Marvel's Suicide Squad. And so Ghost was kind of a villain. She was just, I guess Taskmaster was the same. And these characters aren't as villainous as the ones in Suicide Squad. Those are like some straight up villains who have implants who will die if they are not doing what they're told. Whereas these are sort of more like super gray anti-heroes. I mean, Red Guardian is kind of a villain. He's like a communist Captain America who was serving communist Russia or the USSR in the 90s. So I guess he would be the most villainous, Taskmaster being the second. But I digress. Anyways, super excited. I think that'll be a fun change of pace, and it will be an Avengers-style team up with characters that they have more freedom to do cool things with because there's less expectations for it. So that'll be good. On the Captain America Brave New World front, I'm going to see it Saturday the 15th with my wife, and I have just no clue what to expect. I just want it to be good. I'm not sure that it will be, but we're going to go see it. We're going to get a nice dinner beforehand. My father will be watching my child, so we'll have the night off. Little dinner, little movie, and so it'll be a good time. But man, I just hope it's good. I hope that it also does some leg work. They've released more clips. You know what they've done? They've started to release commercials that show a bunch of Steve Rogers. Be like, yeah, this is a sequel to that. But, it'll be like a 15-second spot, and like 8 seconds or 9 seconds of it is all Steve Rogers. And then there's like a couple little clips from the movie itself in there. It's like, hey, remember this awesome stuff? Well, this is the sequel to that. And so they did the same thing for Captain Marvel 2, where it's just like, hey, this is connected to these other things that you like. So they're trying to get you in with some pre-Endgame nostalgia bait. We'll see if it works for general audiences. I mean, I think that's why the Red Hulk is in the movie, is with Harrison Ford, is like, hey, there's a big red monster thing. Come see it, general audiences. This is going to have some Hulk action, and it's Harrison Ford and Hulk's red with flame powers, just like kind of gimmicky stuff. But I mean, I hope it's good, just because there's some gimmicky elements doesn't mean that they can't have cool characters with a compelling story. But the cards seem to not be in their favor. But I will withhold judgment, and you will get a review from me for sure in one of these pods coming up. So that's really, I guess we can talk about the Fantastic Four trailer. That dropped like a week ago, last week. It was last week sometime. And for those of you who don't know, Fantastic Four, they are Marvel's original family. The Fantastic Four comic book came out before the Avengers, might have been before Spider-Man. They were sort of Marvel's first superhero team. You got the Human Torch, the Thing, Mr. Fantastic, and the Invisible Woman. With Sue Storm and Johnny Storm, the Invisible Woman and Human Torch being siblings, and then Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman dating and then getting married, and then the Thing and Mr. Fantastic being boys. And so they are a true family in the literal sense of the word. And so, anyways, there have been a handful of Fantastic Four movies. There was one in the 90s that was made but never released. And no one, you can look this up, no one who was working on the movie knew it wasn't going to be released. The studio knew. They only had to make the movie so they could hold on to the film rights, lest the film rights expire. So they made a full-on movie and then never released it. I don't know why they didn't release it, but that is a true story. You can watch clips from it. It's pretty crazy, pretty bananas. I don't know if they took like a tax write off, because that's a thing that studios do, is they will make movies, and then if they vow to never release them and lock them away in their vault, they get a tax write off for it. That happened to the most recent Batgirl movie. You can look that up too. But anyways, they had a 2005 and a 2007 Fantastic Four, and then Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. First Fantastic Four movie was one of the first PG-13 movies I had seen in theaters. It was like Spider-Man 2, Pirates of the Caribbean, maybe Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, the Fantastic Four from 2005. Those were all movies that came out before I was 13 that my parents or my dad let me see, which was cool. And so I was all about the first Fantastic Four movie when it came out, because I was 10. And I mean, back then there was just the X-Men movies and a handful of other things, and I totally thought it was awesome. And then Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, I saw that with my cousin when that came out, and that was awesome. I guess I would have been 12 when that one came out, but at that point I think seeing PG-13 movies was a bit more regular. But yeah, so I loved both those movies as kids. As an adult now, you kind of watch it and you're like, okay, these were, for the most part, pretty hokey. Sometimes they were trying to be serious and they couldn't quite hit the tone, but they're super nostalgic for me and I like watching them. And I'll probably watch them before this new one comes out in July. And then they did a reboot in 2015, famously called Fant4stick, because of the way they did instead of fantastic, they put a 4 instead of the A, so it's literally Fant4stick. And that's what everyone calls it. And it's a terrible movie. I didn't see it for the longest time, and then maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I watched it because it was on Disney Plus. I think I was on my phone most of the time. And it's one of those movies where everyone said it was the worst thing ever. So when I watched it, I was like, it's not the worst thing ever, but I couldn't tell you, like I could tell you what happens, but I don't know what the plot. I know like the set pieces, but I don't know what the actual plot was. Yeah. But yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And so I think, but by the time this comes out, it'll have been just about 10 years since the last Fantastic Four movie. It's set in the MCU, but apparently it's like an alternate universe version of the MCU. And so if you watch the trailer, you'll see like everything is 1960s. It's sort of like the Jetsons, where it's the 60s, but the future. And I'm pretty excited. We're going to see live action Galactus, who was in the Silver Surfer movie, but as a amorphous cloud, not his like typical, like not the typical way he looks in the comics. And so I'll definitely be super excited to see that. The CG for The Thing looks really good. And yeah, I mean, they hit the tone pretty solid. I mean, my main gripe for the movie is that I wish they had cast someone younger for both Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman. Like Pedro Pascal's like gotta be almost 50. He's probably like what, 49? How old is Pedro Pascal? Yeah, he's 49. He'll be 50 in April. And you know, I mean, Reed Richards is portrayed at various ages in the comics. You know, sometimes he's like 10, 12-year-old son. But their kids aren't even in this one. At least they weren't in the trailers, and I haven't heard anything about that. So I don't know. I think it's just kind of strange that they cast someone so old. I feel like they would have casted someone maybe late 20s, early 30s. I mean, that, you know, with the Reed Richards kind of has a pretty solid jaw and chin. So, I mean, Pedro Pascal has a pretty good jaw, but yeah, someone a little bit younger I feel like would have been good. And then Vanessa Kirby, she's the actress playing Invisible Woman, and she's really good. And she does not look old, but apparently she's like 38. Let's make sure. Oh, perfect. Just listen to me. She's 36. And again, she just looks amazing. She's super attractive and all that. So, I mean, she'll be good. And I know Pedro Pascal will be good. I think he's a great actor. I like him in a lot of stuff. But I'm just saying, from like a longevity standpoint, he's going to be looking even older, especially if they're going to make 3 of these things, and they're going to be in the Avengers movies, and 10 years down the line and he's 60, they'll make him look younger and stuff. But I don't know. I just figured they would go for someone a little bit younger. But that's like my main gripe. Overall, I think the trailer looks super, super solid, and I'll definitely be seeing it in theaters. So yeah, definitely go check those out if you haven't. I'd be curious to see what people think about those. But yeah, so if you watch this on YouTube, you should definitely let me know. But anyways, something else I want to talk about. And so I've had this folder in my email called personal learning. And there are, so I can't remember how it happened a while ago, maybe in like 2019, I signed up for for like an academia science and education email where it basically was just sending me scientific articles. And for the most part, I didn't really read most of them. I was just saving them to read at a later time. And then I also started adding a couple other things, like if you've heard of Dr. Rhonda Patrick. She's pretty popular on the podcast scene. She has some stuff that I have saved, and she has a cool website newsletter called Found My Fitness, where you can read some articles that she has, and she has some cool podcasts. But anyways, it's a combination of scientific articles ranging from, let's see here, we've got like some that talk about what sort of, whether you like nonfiction or fiction, what sort of brain type you have. It's got stuff on psychosis, neuroscience. It's kind of heavy on the neuroscience and cognitive side of things, and just how certain fairy tales and folklore relate to key myths and stuff. So it's sort of on that side. And then there's also some stuff that's like more my lane, which would be the Rhonda Patrick stuff. That's more like supplementation, workout stuff. And then I also have a subfolder. And so if you've ever heard of the podcast called The Drive by Dr. Peter Attia, his podcast was one of the podcasts that got me into podcasting. And because I'd only listened to a couple up through like 2019, like the original Joe Rogan, Elon Musk one in 2016 I watched. And there's a couple others. Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, my buddy Rob, who is on the show, he introduced me to that. And that was like the main podcast series that was like, oh, okay, podcasts are worth checking out. But my buddy Alex got me introduced into Peter Attia. And so I've got like 40 emails saved from his newsletter, ranging from, it's everything: ketamine assisted therapy, peptides and bee stings, optimizing protein quality, DNA diets, metabolic health, zone 2 cardio training, NAD supplementation, whether or not it's worth it yet, that sort of thing. And so one of the things I think I'm going to do when I do solo episodes, whenever they come around, is in an effort to help work my way through this crap that I have saved over the past 5-6 years. And I've slowed down in saving, because it's getting to the point where I'm like, okay, am I even going to read any of these? And there's probably a decent amount that I won't, and I'll just delete as I start to read them and decide whether or not I find them relevant or not. But all that to say is there's one that I went over today, and it's the most recent newsletter article by Dr. Peter Attia, Catherine Birkenbach, and Taylor Yetter. And the title of the article is Compounding Effects of Multiple Metabolic Conditions on Cardiovascular Risk. And so you can head on over to peterattia.com/ the title of the article, Compounding Effects. But if you click on peterattia.com, you can find his articles and that sort of thing. And so that's what I'm looking at. This came out February 8th, 2025. It's a quick 4-minute read. His stuff ranges from 4 minutes to about 30 minutes. It just depends. Some of the articles you can only get access to if you are a member, which I am not, but I do subscribe to his newsletter. So the stuff that I can read, I'll try and read. And since it's only a 4-minute read, I don't want to overly summarize. There's only 2 citations in the article, but I do want to talk about it because it is pretty cool. And before I go into it, though, Peter Attia also has a book called Outlive, which I can't recommend enough. I think it should be a necessary purchase for all homes in America, just in terms of whoever the reader is in the family. If there's multiple readers, have that person read the book, and there's at least 5 things, if not more, but sometimes it can get a little science heavy, but I mean, he does a good job of explaining things and setting up the scene so you can kind of work your way through the material. But I think everyone should have the book. I think every family should have the book. Whoever reads the book should go through, and there's actionable steps that you can take as an individual, as a family, to ensure that you are taking preventative action that will help you live longer, but also make sure that your health span is high as well. So not only will you live longer, but the quality of your years will increase. And each chapter has multiple actionable steps that you can take that will improve your life, especially if you're not doing anything. If you're not doing anything at all, whether it's diet related, exercise, if all the things are bad, sleep, diet, exercise, if all those things are bad, if you just take one thing from each chapter and try and apply it, there's a good chance you will see vast improvements in a lot of your biomarkers and just your perception for how you feel. So anyways, talking about the compounding effects of multiple metabolic conditions on cardiovascular risk. And these metabolic conditions that they are talking about are type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And the reason that it's specified non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is because alcoholics often get fatty liver disease. But, and this is also in the Outlive book, after a while, people were noticing fatty liver disease symptoms and fat buildup in muscle tissue in those who were not alcoholics. And so they have to specify between non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and then just fatty liver disease caused by consuming too much alcohol. And so basically what happened in this study is the Korean National Health Insurance Service, which is a single payer system covering more than 97% of the Korean population, examined 7.8 million participants, with the mean age being 45.9. And then they followed up over a median follow-up of 8.13 years to assess associations between type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and the incidence of heart attacks, strokes, and all-cause mortality. So they're looking at a lot of things here, but they have this huge sample size of 7.8 million people, all from the Korean National Health Insurance Service. And so long story short, having both type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease increases your risk of heart disease, and having an episode that could impact your mortality, meaning having a heart attack that kills you. And so that's not a surprise, obviously, if you have more than one thing happening, both related to heart health and heart health with regards to blood glucose levels, and inflammation, those being the two main things that you got to deal with type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome, not fatty liver disease, pardon me. But what they also found was that the effects of both were not additive. So meaning it wasn't just 1 + 1 = 2, or let's say 3 + 3 = 6. It was 3 × 3 = 9. And so basically saying that the risk was multiplied instead of added. And so basically why this matters for you is if you have one of those things, you definitely want to get it under control. But if you have both of those things, the problems are systemic and they're super deeply connected, again, around things like insulin resistance and inflammation. And this is true for even mild fatty liver disease. This can substantially raise your risk for a cardiovascular episode, and then even more so when paired with type 2 diabetes. So all that to be said, and this, again, people know this. Like, I think if you were to ask someone on the street, it's like, is it good to have diabetes? Is it good to have fatty liver disease? No. Is it good to have both? No. Do you think it's worse when you have both? Someone would probably say probably. It just sucks that it's even more worse when you have both. It's more than just, like I said, it's more than just adding the two together. It's multiple times worse. And you can see, I didn't want to get too number heavy, but all the numbers here in terms of how much of a percent worse. Basically, it's just you have like a 1 in 20 chance of having some sort of cardiac episode that could be fatal. And that's just within a 5-year range. And so that increases, of course, as both things are left untreated. And so if you have that sort of thing, type 2 diabetes or fatty liver disease, the obvious things that you can do is you can start some sort of regular exercise, make sure you're getting as much sleep as you possibly can, making sure you have a good diet, especially if you're overweight. You probably need to, get that in check. So, do the things that you're supposed to do, but that you don't want to do. And that's really what it boils down to. You want to get ahead of that stuff as soon as you possibly can. Otherwise, you'll start to really feel the consequences. And the more time passes, the more things get worse, and the less the preventative behaviors have an impact. That being said, the general advice is going to always be, no matter how old you are, start exercising, start eating right, start sleeping as much as you can, because it's only up from where you are. And so yeah, I'm probably going to start doing that a little bit more often. Again, whenever we do a solo episode, I'll probably do a little bit more prep, so it's a little more straightforward and I'm not stumbling over my words as much, but it'll help me hone in on my profession, which is, just being a health and wellness professional. I'm a personal trainer, corrective exercise specialist, nutrition coach. Those are my certifications. I've probably got like 4,000 group fitness classes coached. So, and then, however many years of personal training experience. And so I love learning about this stuff. I particularly like learning more about the nutrition side of things. But, if I'm just looking at some of the other options in here, talking about blood pressure, cold therapy. I love cold therapy. I love heat therapy as well. So I would definitely like to talk more about that sort of thing. It can even get as specific as metabolic health and addressing where specific markers land, like your HbA1c and that sort of thing. Fasting, I would love to talk a little bit more about fasting. So yeah, basically these articles will help me brush up on a lot of the things I listen to in podcasts. It's just another way of taking them in. And as I get better at being more of a science orator, hopefully you guys will learn some stuff along the way. And trying to get some more fitness professionals up on the pod. I think that would be a really good thing. So yeah, that's kind of just what we got going on. Every time I do a solo episode, if there's something to report on, I'll probably do something Marvel related. I'll do something fitness related, kind of give an update on whatever it is that I'm training, any sort of obstacles that I'm facing. And I also started my new job today. So my last class at Orange Theory was this past Friday, the 7th. It was awesome. We had a great time, killer playlist, a lot of emotional moments, and it's all good with Orange Theory. No bad blood, none of that. I just had an opportunity that I had to take, but nice thing about Orange Theory is it's an awesome product. The members are all super awesome, and I love coaching Orange Theory classes. They're a lot of fun. It's fun to create a hype sort of environment, and the doors open for a return. If I'm able to get all my ducks in a row and maybe coach some part-time classes in the future, I totally will. So Orange Theory is awesome. If you're not doing anything for fitness and you want to get better at cardio and you want an introduction to lifting weights or whatever, if you're just looking to show up and turn your brain off and have faith that you're getting a high quality workout that'll kick your butt, Orange Theory is awesome. If you're looking specifically for body comp, you can use Orange Theory. You just have to be a lot more specific with the class types that you choose. You'll probably just have to go a lot more strength 50 classes, that sort of thing. Because to be honest, most of body comp is going to come from muscle mass and eating right in the kitchen. I mean, you don't even, like, for people who think about this wanting a 6-pack and they're like, oh, I'm going to do a bunch of crunches. 6-pack is exclusively done in the kitchen. You can not even work out and have a 6-pack. I mean, that's all just body fat percentage for the most part. So if that is your goal from an aesthetic perspective, not that it should be, I mean, having a 6-pack is dope, but it might not be necessary to get yourself in a healthy body fat percentage range, which is like 10 to 20% for males, 20 to 30% for females. So, it's all good. Do what you can. If you're not working out, get out there. Feel free to reach out to me if you know me or if you're on Instagram, and I can get you on the path. And we'll get it all sorted out. Thanks for listening, everyone. I think that's all I got for you today, and I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. Peace. What's up, everybody? It's Jake here, Fowler and Friends. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me and all of us over here at Fowler and Friends. So if you could please like, subscribe, comment, do all of that, but definitely subscribe, share the videos with your friends, and keep on supporting the channel. Thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next one. Later.